Let's talk about bourbon. So recently I had a birthday, and it was somewhat of a milestone birthday, the big 3-0. And on that birthday, my girlfriend surprised me with a trip to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, where we visited about 8 distilleries over the course of 4 days, had a lot of different samples of bourbon. Before this trip, I really only ordered bourbon every now and then, and I did it often because the taste was good and I was trying to look fancy in front of my friends and colleagues. But after visiting the Bourbon Trail, I learned so much about bourbon, and I wanted to do this video today to highlight some of the facts that I learned, so the next time that you're out at a bar with your friends or colleagues, you can impress them with your bourbon knowledge. So let's begin. First off, bourbon is a whiskey. All bourbons are actually whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are bourbon. You have your Irish whiskey, your Scotch, your Tennessee whiskey. There are a few things that make a bourbon different from other types of whiskeys. First of all, a bourbon has to be mostly corn, about 51% to be exact. Also, and this is most important, in order to be known as a bourbon, it has to be made in America. Some people believe that it has to be made in Kentucky. That's not true. You can actually make bourbon anywhere in the US, but about 95% of bourbons are made in the good state of Kentucky. Also, for it to be bourbon, it has to be aged in new charred oak barrels. So oftentimes distilleries will take the used barrels and ship them off to Mexico or Scotland to make tequila or scotch. So why do the barrels matter? Well, it's through the aging process in barrels that a bourbon will get about 60% of its flavor and 100% of its color. So when you are drinking a bourbon and you taste that oakiness, sometimes vanilla, sometimes caramel, that's barrel. And it is a damn good barrel. The bourbon actually goes into a barrel for aging as a clear liquid. It's then over the aging process that in warm summers, the liquid seeps into the barrel absorbs the liquid, and then in the winter, it spits it back out. Bourbons, you'll find, often cost more the longer they're aged. This is because of a number of reasons. First off, while a bourbon's aging, it's stored in a warehouse, and all the distilleries are being taxed on each barrel that they have in the warehouse. So the longer a barrel is there, the longer it's being taxed. Secondly, is because you lose a lot of bourbon during the aging process. Some of the bourbon is absorbed into the barrel, never to come back out again. This is what's known as the devil's cut. And then a lot of the bourbon simply evaporates over time into thin air. This is what's known as the angel's share. So that when you walk into a warehouse where they're storing all these barrels and you can smell the strong scent of bourbon in the air, that is the magical smell of 100 angels getting loaded. That's science, look it up. And lastly, but not leastly, one last term for you to learn. When you do have a magical sip of bourbon and you can feel the burn in the back of your mouth, in your throat, in your chest, that is what's known in Kentucky as a Kentucky hug. And it's a good hug. I feel loved.